This piece reminds me of you guys so much. I can't tell you how much. Whenever I have a piece like this that's just really interesting, really natural, and I want to leave it that way, except for a little bit of turning to make it a useful thing or look like something that it maybe doesn't look like right now, somebody always says, well, couldn't you just leave it alone? I just love that. I love that. Well, yes, I could, but it's not a wood collecting channel. It's a wood turning channel. I have to turn it or else I have to change my channel. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or as we like to say here at Shady Acres Woodshop, howdy. Today we have a piece of holly. You know that because it says holly right there. And who wrote that on there? Valerie. Valerie wrote that on there and then sent it over to me. How cool. Thank you, Valerie, so much. So, yes, I'm going to turn this, but it's going to be very little turning. I'm not going to turn the outside. I am going to do something with the top there and with the bottom, and we'll talk about that. Welcome to Wood Collectors United, or Wood Collectors Anonymous. Oh, you guys crack me up. I just love that. So, see, it's just too interesting to turn away. I just can't possibly do it. We have this one plain side here. I'll sand that off. We'll get a nice smooth finish on there. And of course, I'll sand all of this, but with my Sandoflex, not with regular sandpaper. So it's going to look just like it is, except cleaned up a little bit. And then I'm going to drill a hole in the top. I'm going to turn the bottom. Put a tenon on down here so that I can hold it. I think it's going to be a candle holder, a tea light holder, a candle holder, something small. The piece isn't very big. It looks like it's 6 inches by 5 inches by 5 inches, something like that. Now the trouble comes when we try and mount it. How do we know where the center of this is? I'm going to show you how I find center down here, which is important because if I think I find the center up here, and let's say I'm over here somewhere, and then I bring up my tailstock and it's clear down here, it's just not going to work. So I need to know the exact center of this and the exact center of that in order to turn this piece or to make it into something else. So the first thing I'm going to do is take it over to the bandsaw. I'm going to set it on that flat part that says holly. I'm going to put this part up against my bandsaw fence, and I'm just going to trim off, maybe 3/4 of an inch of the top there. That'll give me a flat spot, and then I'll show you how we're going to mark that flat spot and make it centered on the bottom. Some of you might remember me doing that. It hasn't been all that long ago, a few months ago. Well, it's probably been 6 months ago now, I don't know. But anyway, it wasn't that long ago, and it's kind of a neat little trick, and I'll show you how to do it. So I'm going to go to the bandsaw, cut that off. It'll just take a second. This is going to be kind of hard to show, I suppose. I did make my cut. Cut that little bit off of there. It still takes a little bit of guessing because we have to come close. We don't have to be exact, but we have to come close. So now I need to know where the top of this is, the center of this, and how that matches up with where I can be down here. Not necessarily the center of this, but where my tenon needs to be so that I can hold it. So if I set it down and I hold my finger where I think it goes, because this part here sticks out away from the rest of it. See, we've got a big indentation over here, big indentation over here. But if I just look at it, I can see that the center of the top is about, or the bottom actually, this will be the bottom, is about there. So then I take my compass and see where I can, what's the closest I can come to that without running off the edge. Pretty close to this edge here. But looking the piece over all the way around, that looks to be about the center of the top that it's standing on. If that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. It probably is a lot easier for me being right here and feeling and seeing a little closer than you are maybe. But anyway, so I'm going to draw my circle. This is about a 2-inch circle. Now there's my center. So now I'm going to take my awl and poke a little bigger hole in that. Now we'll take it over here to the lathe and I'll show you what I'm going to do to find the center of the top. Now for the non-wood turners, this is called a knockout bar. And what it's for is if I didn't have my chuck on, and if I had this center where the chuck is, when it goes in there, it kind of locks in and you can't get it back out. You can't just pull it out. So you go over to the other end of the lathe and you take this knockout bar and you knock it out of there. You hold your hand out here and you knock it like that. So now what I do, now I have that mark that I made with my awl, and I have my circle that I drew. So now I can just put that mark, my awl mark, on my live center like that, and then I can push this up against my chuck, not into the chuck. Nothing's holding it on the chuck. It's just kind of resting there. It's just sort of serving as a backstop right now. So we know this is the center that we want. So now I just get this up here against the chuck as straight as I can get it so that this bottom looks flat, and then tighten up, give it a little bit of pressure and tighten that up. So now I'm just going to take this over here, my knockout bar, over to the other end of the lathe, slide it in as if I was knocking out one of those centers, and I'm just going to smack it. And that's making an impression in the top of this, making a little round impression. And that'll tell me where the center of the top is compared to the center of the bottom. Can you see it? It's almost just a shadow. It's right there. Can you see that? It didn't really make, it's not a deep, I hope you can see that. I can see it pretty plainly. So now we know that is the center when we go to drill out the top of this. So now I can put my drive center in here. And now I have the hole for the top and the hole for the bottom. So I'll just put that on there, right in that hole. And I'll bring up my tailstock, drive the live center into that hole, and now we're in business. Now there is another way to do what I just did there. I could have put this drive center in my chuck as it is now, found the center of the top, and then without having the tailstock up here already, I could hold this so that this looked flat, and then I could bring up the tailstock. Some people find that easier. I've found instances where that just really doesn't work because it's, you know, on a much larger piece with bigger voids. It's more difficult for me. For me, this is easier. So it's just, there's two ways you could have approached this. So I used one. You might want to use the other. Whatever works. We're going to be turning at 720 RPM, 5/8 inch bowl gouge, mask and face shield on. Now I'm just going to use this diamond point tool to square up the sides of my tenon. And that's good. Time for sanding. I'm going to start the sanding with my Sandoflex. Most of the sanding is going to be done with the Sandoflex. I'll use my 2-inch disc down here a little bit. All of this has to be sanded up here, and I think I can reach it all. Looks like it. Yeah, I can reach it all. So I'll be able to get all that, and then we'll get a sanding sealer on there, I think. When I finish that, oh, that's 180 grit, and that's as fine as I will go on all of this. That cleans it up, smooths it out, but it doesn't change how it looks. Then I'll switch to my 2-inch disc, and I'll sand just this right here, actually. And then inside here, I'll peel off that disc and sand inside this area around the tenon, and I will sand where the holly's written on there, and I'll do that up through 400 grit, and I'll show you what both of those look like as soon as I get my mask on. And I'll come at that from all directions. And it's going to look great with some finish on there. You're just going to love it. Then with the lathe spinning in reverse at about 350. And be sure whenever you're sanding that you get rid of that tool rest. Get rid of that tool rest. Don't get your hand caught down here between the work and the tool rest. It's a bad feeling. So then I'll just peel off the 2-inch disc and I'll just hold it up in here and sand that like that. Easy peasy. I'll bring you back here in a bit and we'll put some sanding sealer on there. See you in a bit. Now for those that are new to my channel with this video, I know you're thinking, well, that's really ugly. What is this guy doing? Well, we're not done yet. Just hang in there. Just hang in there. I think you might be amazed at all the nature this piece has to offer and how good it's going to look when it's got a little spit and polish on it. And this is sanding sealer. Shellac based sanding sealer. It's called Zinsser Seal Coat. It comes ready to use out of the can. I don't do anything to it. And for a final coat, I'm going to use Zinsser Shellac, which also comes ready to use out of the can. Now most of this, of course, is going to have to be brushed, so I've put some of the sanding sealer in this little can, and I've got my little brush. And I'm just going to brush the places where my rag won't reach, which is most of it. But we've got almost white, then we've got brown, then we've got gray, and we've got almost black in some places. It's going to look incredible. And it's smooth as silk. All of this that looks so rough and nasty, smooth, very smooth. I'll put on 2 coats of this sanding sealer. I don't think I'll put the shellac on until the top is done, and then I'll put the shellac on everywhere at one time, because there's going to be some overflow up here, and if I put the shellac on now, then when I do the sanding sealer on the very top, it's going to get on my shellac finish, and I don't want that. See you in a bit. So here's where we're at right now. I've got 2 coats of sanding sealer on here, and you can see there's some dull spots here and there. So I figured I'd put another coat on when I do the inside of this, and then put the shellac on after that. But some of this is going to get cut away depending on what you tell me next. I've got my compass set to the size hole that I would drill if I was going to put in something like this. This is an electronic candle, but I think they're all pretty standard. This is just under 2 inches. Or I could put in something like this and just drill a little hole and just let the light shine up out of there. So if I was to drill a hole this size, this is what we would get. This would be the size of the hole. So we're going to run off the side here just a little bit, just down into here, and then the wood would still be here below that. And we'd have wood all the way around here. And then when we get over here, now I planned this on purpose. The hole will, how do I say it? Maybe you can see what'll happen. The bottom of the hole would be down here, and there would be no hole here. It would be gone, much as it's gone right now. But that still leaves plenty of wood here, all the way around here, all the way around here, to hold this piece in and not let it fall out. It won't fall out of there. So am I going with this, or am I going with this little guy? I wish these lights, I have a ton of these little lights, And I wish they would shine out rather than up. They tend to shine up, and I wish they would go around. It goes around a little bit, but mostly it goes up. I just don't know what would look good. I could drill the one hole for this, which is about 1.25 inches, I think, and see how it looks. And how deep would that be? Should it go down inside there a ways so that you kind of can't see it? I guess you're still going to see it here, unless right about here it'll disappear if we get it down into that far. I just don't know. I don't know, you know. It's tough making that decision, and I need you guys to help me out. Boy, I hear you all yelling. But you're talking over the top of each other. Little hole, big hole, little hole, big hole. Settle down, take a vote. Well, okay, I'll try this little one. I think it's not going to be too terribly impressive, but I'll try it, and then I can always make a larger hole. Okay, I'm going to drill 1.25 hole, about 1.25 deep. Lathe is spinning at about 340 RPM. Is that what we're after, or do we want to be able to put the big one in there? It's like 50-50. You guys are 50-50. I'm telling you, take a vote. You can't keep me guessing like this. Big one. Big one, Phil. Nope, little one. I like the little one, Phil. Leave it like it is. You want that, and you want this. You know, I tend to agree with you. I think the little one, I'm surprised. I thought it would be the big one. Well, the way it is now, from my point of view, I know you can't see it very well. It's like that. It's like it's making this the front, because you can see the lighted up area here. If I turn it around here, which should be the front over here, I think, but you can't really see much. But in a a darkened room, it'd be kind of cool maybe. Okay, last chance. Let me drill it out, see how big it would be. I'm not saying it's too big. I'm just showing you how big it would be about. All right. I'll let you know what I decide. Well, I made an executive decision, as you can see here. What I did is I took this off the lathe and took it in the house, along with the little bitty light. I turned the room lights off, and I set this on a table in a place that it might set in a house. Turned the little light on, and it looked pretty darn good. I liked it. I liked it quite a bit. Then I turned the little light off, turned the room lights on, and it just looks silly. It just looks silly with that little hole in there. It just didn't look right. And that's how it would spend most of its life. It wouldn't be in a darkened room with this little light on. So we're gonna go for this size hole, which is about 2 1/8 inch. And I'm gonna drill, this is 2 1/8 inch as well in length. So I'm going to drill about 2 1/4 inches deep, so it sits just below the rim here. Now you can see what's going to happen when I drill this hole, and I told you this earlier. I think we're going to come out the side of this a little bit. Won't hurt anything at all, especially with this particular little candle light, because the light comes through the holes in this. So you might see just a little bit of light in there, and when the light's not on, you might just see some gold. I don't know. Anyways, I'm pretty sure this hole is going to come out just a small amount in this area. It might not even do it. It's kind of hard to measure, but anyway, so I'm going to drill it out. We'll have the lathe spinning at about 250, and here we go. Okay, that's it. That's it. Yeah, okay. I guess this is going to be a no turning. See, just like you guys are always saying. Couldn't you just leave it alone? I almost left it alone. Let me get cleaned up here, and we'll get some... Oh, I guess we got to sand it. We'll do some sanding and get some sanding sealer on there. See, in just a bit. Now you can see where I came through the side. I told you I was going to. I told you it wasn't going to be very much. I personally like it a lot. This doesn't need much sanding. The Forstner bit did a real nice job, so I'm just going to hand sand this just like this with my finger on a piece of sandpaper up through 400 grit. This edge around here is just real sharp all the way around, real pokey, especially that little devil right there. So I'm just going to use my Sandoflex and just gently at a low speed go around there and just kind of clean that up. Oh, that little pokey thing just left. I guess it wasn't very sturdy. And that's about all it's going to take. Yep, way better already. So I'll just finish sanding that up off camera. I'll bring you back here in a bit and we'll put some sanding sealer on there and some shellac. See you in just a little bit. Well, in the interest of not wasting your time, there was so little finish to put on this. I just went ahead and put it on. You saw me put it on the outside, so it was pretty much the same thing, only a teeny weeny bit to do is all. So now I've mounted a block of wood up in my chuck. I'm going to slip the candle holder, I guess we'll call it a candle holder, over that and bring up my tailstock. I still have that center hole there for reference, so I'm just going to drive my live center into that. Bring up my tool rest. We'll spin the piece up and see if it's turning true. It's pretty close, not perfect, but close enough. Turn the speed up to about 550. I'm going to grab a 3/8 inch bowl gouge and commence to removing that tenon. Now I just want to check for clearance, and we have good clearance. I'm just looking for a gap between the top of this and the shaft of my gouge, and there is clearance there, so I know I've gone up high enough. I like to leave a little bit raised if I can. There isn't much there this time, but it just adds a little visual interest. So I'll just keep working that away. And now that's quite small, so I'm going to adjust my tool rest a little bit closer and a little bit higher, and I'm going to turn the speed down to about 400 RPM and switch to a swept-back bowl gouge so that I can get in there closer and just get it a little bit smaller. Now I see some of it just broke away, so I have to be pretty careful now. Now I'm going to turn the speed down to about 200 RPM, and I'm going to use just my right hand on the gouge. I'm going to put my left hand on the switch. And when that little nub stops turning or breaks entirely, we'll know we're through. Breaks entirely it is. Maybe not entirely. So now I'll just take this over here to the workbench, sand that off, sign it, get it finished, and I'll be right back. Be sure you stick around to the end of the video so you can see the before and after shots of this piece. If you'd share the video, I'd really appreciate that. Thank you so much for that. Well, here it is, one holly candle holder in the books. That kind of needs to be the front sometimes, but not all the time. I'll show you why it doesn't have to be. This is what I prefer to be the front over here. And you can see those holes right through there. I love that part. And the bark, some of this is bark, some of it's not bark, peeled off bark areas. Then of course that cut off area, but that's all nice and shiny and smooth. That looks fine, looks okay. But I just think this side looks so much better, don't you? What are we going to put in there? Well, Phil, you said it's a candle holder. I guess it'd be a candle. Yeah, I guess it would. But which one? So we talked about this one. And it looks fine in there if you go this way. If you go this way, you can't even see it. You can see it through the holes a little bit, but not so much. Turning it on with the little light on it doesn't really do much for it. In a dark room, it'd be just fine. Like, just looking at it like that, it'd be just fine in a dark room. Otherwise, not really. Then I have this one with that little light. I just stuck it inside of there. Now that looks pretty good. Sticks up a little bit more. It's got the light on it. You could see the light everywhere in the room, I suppose. It doesn't really come through those holes, the light doesn't. A little bit, but not much. Maybe in a real dark room you'd see it. Anyway, that looks okay. Just doesn't look great. Looks great this way, but that's the front. So now we have this one. Little fake candle with a fake light. That looks pretty good that direction, but again, you lose it over here. And again, it would look okay in a dark room, but not everybody lives in a dark room like I do. So I've got a taller one, and this one is probably my favorite. Fake candle, but you can see it all the way around. And that just looks like the front there to me. You can even see that through the holes because it's a lighter colored candle. So that might be my favorite. And then I have the tallest one like that. And that looks good from all directions, I think. You tell me. You tell me what your choice is. It actually looks worse this way and looks better from the front. But I think that medium, this is a 4-inch, then we have the 3-inch, then the 2-inch. All the others are 2-inch. And I think the 3-inch probably looks the best. But you tell me. Maybe you don't like this piece at all. Tell me that too. I don't care. I had fun making it. Doesn't that one look best to you? Looks good from all directions. Let me know what you think of this whole piece. Should I have made it a bowl and cut away all of this nature in the wood? I could have. Coulda, woulda, shoulda. Didn't. Let me know what you think. Thank you, Valerie, for sending this along for all to enjoy. If you like this video, thumbs up please. I'd sure appreciate it. If you're a subscriber, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. If you're not a subscriber, you might consider becoming one. I put out regular videos, as regular as I can, and I'd like to keep in touch. An easy way to subscribe is just click my picture you see there near the end of the video. Your comments are always welcome, and I love reading them. So for now, this is Phil, Shady Acres Woodshop, signing off.